We are Track Record.
We are never finished.
What's up, you guys? We are out in the middle of nowhere. So today we're gonna be driving around in these canyons, having a good time, and I wanna be talking about my Corbeau racing seats. I've had them in the car for a few months now, and I just wanna talk about what it's like to daily drive these seats, because they are considered racing seats. And just give you a better idea, if you guys are interested in these seats, I'll link everything in the description. And then after that, I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different, something I don't think we've ever done on this channel before, and I'm gonna be doing a little bit of a story time. It's not gonna be car related, but it's just a little interesting story that I have had in my life, and maybe you guys want to hear. So, but the main point of this video and the whole question we're going to try and answer is, what is it like to daily drive the Corbeau race seats? So let's find out. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the fact that the seats are a little bit harder to get in and out of than the regular stock seats. It's expected with pretty much any type of performance seat, especially since these are so bolstered. You have to be careful getting in and out, that you're not constantly sitting on the side bolstering when you're getting in the car or pushing down on it, because eventually over time it's going to wear out the bolstering, and you know, you just don't want to, you want to put the least amount of pressure on that possible, but at the same time that's kind of like, that's what makes it hard to get in and out of. So you just have to be aware of what you're constantly rubbing up against and putting weight on to make sure you're not damaging the integrity of the seat. So it's, you know, it takes practice, but after like a few weeks of doing it, you kind of just get used to it. You know where to put your hands, you know how to maneuver your body, and it's not a huge deal. The second thing is these seats are quite a bit lower than stock seats. It doesn't take that much time to get used to it. At first it was a little bit daunting, feeling like, oh my gosh, like I can't see the hood of my car really as easily anyways. So you have to really be careful when you're pulling into parking spaces, that you're aware of the curb in front of you. It's just something you got to get used to. But again, it's not that big of a deal unless you have a short wife, like I do. See, when she sits in my seats, she can't even see over the windowsill. So, you know, just something to think about. Your passengers are definitely, you know, if you're gonna have any, it's going to affect them as well. So again, not a big deal for me, but if you know some shorter people, then maybe it's gonna be a little weird. Then we move on to the looks, and obviously this is a plus. These seats look way cooler, and just, it's pretty aggressive looking when you're seeing this car come down the road, and you can clearly see these seats in the front seat. They just look so much more aggressive and so much cooler than the OEM seats, but looks aren't everything without comfortability. So these seats, and this is something that I get asked a lot about these seats, is, are they comfortable for daily driving? And honestly, that all depends on for how long you're driving or how your commute is. I drive for about an hour each way every single day, and these seats, I don't usually have any issue with these seats. But like if I'm at work and I'm sitting all day, and then I get into these seats and then I'm sitting for another hour, my back does get a little bit sore because there's not very much lumbar support with these seats. But if you're driving like 30 minutes, even like 45 minutes on a regular basis, it doesn't really affect you that much. Like I said, I don't have that many issues with it. But you know, I think it really just comes down to the lumbar support. But without that, the whole reason that this seat is shaped the way it is so that it can, you know, contain you. So when you take it out to canyon roads like this, or you take it to the track or whatever, it's just a complete world's difference of driving experience, and it really changes the way that you drive the car because you're not being thrown around. You're not trying to hang onto the wheel when you're going around a sharp corner or anything like that. So you can just confidently sit in your seat and really focus more on controlling the car rather than trying to control your body as you're going through curves. So overall, I definitely would recommend these seats if you're daily driving and you do want to take it to the track and just rip it up, because these seats are comfortable but still very, very track capable. I haven't had any solid complaints over them, so I think that's pretty much it. So now we can shift gears a little bit into the story time. Okay, so about this story. So this story involves me, another friend who I won't name, and Brett, which you guys, hopefully you know who Brett is, but if not, this is him now.
That is dope.
So the three of us, this was probably back in like, oh my gosh, I would say like 7th or 8th grade. So we were probably about like 13 years old. And we were all hanging out at Brett's house, and we were trying to figure out what to do. Like, you know, what does 13-year-old guys, 13-year-old boys do when they're bored? Usually end up doing something they're not supposed to. And that's exactly what we did. So we're trying to figure out what to do. We're throwing around ideas. We don't really have anything good. We can't drive anywhere because, you know, our parents drive us at that point. And one of the friend, what should I call him? We'll just call him Danny. So Danny suggests that we go ding-dong ditching. Now, me, I had never done anything like this because I was like the sheltered, you know, good kid. And, you know, Danny had done it a couple times before and thought it would be a great idea for us to do it. Brett hadn't done it either. So, you know, we're like, all right, let's just give it a try. So we just went around in our neighborhood, in Brett's neighborhood, and, you know, we weren't in like a sketchy area or anything, so it wasn't a big deal, but it was like probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And we did, I don't know how many houses we went to, but probably it was under 5 houses. And we did the first one, didn't get any response. We like ran up to the door and hit the doorbell, or one of us hit the doorbell, because I don't think all 3 of us were brave enough to actually go up to the door. And we hit the doorbell, ran away, and usually nothing happened. It's so stupid when I think about it now, because the people were probably like looking out the window watching us as we were doing this, probably hiding in plain sight, and just being like, these stupid kids, like, what are you even doing? We were like, okay, this isn't really working. You know, let's just go back home, hang out, get some food, whatever. So as we're walking home, I don't remember who decided that this would be a good idea, but one of us was like, let's just do one more house before we go home. So we go up to this house, and it has this weird U-shaped driveway, you know, where you enter in one way and then it curves around and you exit the other way, and then their front door is like somewhere in the middle. Well, we go onto the in part of the driveway, and we're actually standing on this person's driveway, and there's no lights on in the house, there's no car in the driveway or anything. We're standing on this person's driveway, and we're like judging the house and like, you know, trying to figure out if we should actually do this. And we probably spent less than 30 seconds on this guy's driveway before we decided that it wasn't a good idea and we should just keep walking and go home. So we continued our journey around this guy's driveway and went back onto the sidewalk, and we kept walking. Well, about 30 seconds later, we hear this guy yelling at us, and he's coming up on us pretty quickly. We're all like, whoa, who is this guy and why is he running at us? And he's like yelling all this, you know, horrible stuff at us, at these like little kids. He was probably I think he was definitely over 18, but I don't think he was as old as like 20 or anything like that. But he was quite a bit older than us at the time. And he comes up to us, and me and Danny are like, this is not good. Like, no good is gonna come out of the situation. So me and him back off of the sidewalk onto the street. And Brett, poor Brett, is standing there like, I don't know if he didn't realize what was happening or if he was just like, you know, he's not gonna do anything, you know. So he stands his ground and stands on the sidewalk, and this guy is coming up, he's like asking us, you know, what are you doing in my house? Like, you trying to break in? Or like, you know, what are you doing in my house? Are you messing with my stuff? And we were like so afraid at that point that we were like completely honest with him. We were like, no, we were just trying to ding dong ditch. We stood on your driveway for a few seconds and then walked away. That's all we were doing. We were just, I'm sorry, you know, we were just ding dong ditching, and we won't do it again. Like, we were really apologetic. And right about as that happened, a car full of other older people pull up real quick on us on the street, like right up next to us, like they were, you know, watching the situation from behind, and then, you know, driving up and then stopping right next to us. So me and Danny figure this is it, like we're about to get jumped right now. And so after the car pulls up, this guy who had confronted us, out of nowhere just does one of those, like, and meanwhile Brett's still standing on the sidewalk, and he was getting, like, keep in mind, this guy was getting closer and closer and closer to Brett. Meanwhile, we're backing farther and farther away. And this guy, out of nowhere, Brett did not see it coming. He does one of those, like, sidewinding punches. It wasn't like a, like, you know, put your hands up and do one of those straight punches. It was like, I'm throwing my fist at you as hard as I can, like a catapult kind of punch. And he hits Brett square in the nose so hard that he instantly, like, his body became a board and he just fell backwards. Like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad looking back on the situation, but me and Danny were like, this is where it ends. So we booked it. We just immediately turned around and ran down the street, and the street was actually a cul-de-sac. So we didn't really have anywhere to go. There was, at the very last house on the end, had about probably an 8-foot wall, and then they always make fun of me for this. I jumped over the wall, and Danny realized that there was a little fence that he ran around, so whatever, I ended up jumping over the wall, not a big deal. And so meanwhile, Brett's laying in the street, and we found this out afterwards, but the guys had actually gone through his pockets and looked at all of his stuff, and they actually left all of his stuff on his chest. And so I'm like freaking out, and I don't know where Danny went. He just went off running. Like, he went off I think he ran back to Brett's house, but he was gone. And I stayed on the street right behind where the wall that I jumped over on, it was like a main street. And I had a cell phone at the time, so I actually called 911 because I was so, like, afraid for Brett. What I should have done, looking back on it, I wish I would have either stayed in the first place or had, you know, immediately gone back to see if Brett was okay. Great friend on my part, but so I actually called 911. I was like talking to the operator, and as I'm talking to the operator, 2 more cars pull up on me off the side, like on this main street, and they, like, same way the other car did, like, pulled up real quick on me. And I was like, they're still coming after me. Like, this is it again, you know, they won't quit. So I freaked out a little bit because I thought that they were coming after me again, but it turns out that it was actually the parents of the guy who punched Brett. And they were trying to figure out where he went, because I guess he took off immediately with his friends. And so these guys were just trying to find him and, like, see where he was at and try and figure out what was going on. So they left, because I told them, I don't know, he was just over there on the street. And so they left. And a few minutes later, I see Brett stumbling out, hobbled over, stumbling around the wall that Danny had run through, the gate that Danny had run through, and he is just, oh my gosh, like, I will never forget this image. He is covered in blood. There was blood pouring. I mean, at this point it was pretty much stopped, but he had blood that had just poured down his entire face, down his entire body. His shoes were soaked in blood. Like, it was so bad. He lost so much blood out of his nose. It was crazy. And I was like, you know, an ambulance is on the way. I was thinking the worst. But so the ambulance eventually came and they were checking him out. He actually didn't break his nose. His nose was very swollen. He had double black eyes the next day. And luckily he was very fortunate. But, you know, gosh, it was so crazy. The police eventually came and like took some, you know, our stories and everything like that. We didn't get in trouble, but yeah, it was just a really crazy, stupid thing. But like, you know, that's not supposed to happen. You go in ding dong ditch, you don't get punched in the face. But I guess, I don't know, maybe that's just us. But that was pretty much it. Yeah, so interesting story. So if you guys want to hear more of that, let me know, and I'll do more of these, and maybe Jordan will do some too. That's gonna do it for today, and if you have any questions, like I said, leave it in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, definitely do so. I really recommend that. I mean, that'd be a good idea on your part, and good for us too. If you haven't been following on Instagram, it is on the screen now. I would recommend that as well, and we will catch you guys in the next one.